welcome. Today, we are diving into a story that's probably every crypto user's worst nightmare. What happens when one sleepy click costs you thousands of dollars? We're going to see how Bitcoin's most unforgiving feature, the fact that there are no takebacks, isn't a bug, but actually a powerful lesson in what it means to be financially free.
All right, let's kick things off with a story that'll make anyone who's ever sent a crypto transaction feel a little queasy. And believe it or not, it all starts with something as simple as a cup of coffee.
So the story goes like this. A guy says, I accidentally sent 0.1 BTC to the wrong address while half asleep trying to buy a $5 coffee. His friend, totally freaking out, says, Dude, you just lost $6,000. And the guy replies, No, I just paid $6,000 for the world's most expensive immutable receipt. You can just feel the absolute panic in that first part, right? That stomach-dropping moment. But then the punchline flips the whole thing on its head. It's not a loss, it's a receipt. Yeah, just let that number sink in for a moment. $6,000 gone. Just like that, in the blink of an eye. All because of one tiny, drowsy mistake. And that's really the kicker, isn't it? The sheer absurdity of paying that much for a single coffee. This little joke just perfectly captures the high-stakes reality of a system that plays by a completely different set of rules than what we're used to. You see, that joke isn't just a funny story. It's the perfect way to understand a core, and let's be honest, kind of intimidating feature of Bitcoin. Because in this world, there is no undo button. There's no oops key. And that brings us to this key concept, immutability. It just means something is unchangeable. Once a Bitcoin transaction gets confirmed, it's locked in. It's basically carved into cryptographic stone for the whole world to see forever. It cannot be changed, it cannot be canceled, and it cannot be reversed, period. So let's put these two worlds side by side. On the left, you've got the financial system we all grew up with. It's full of safety nets, right? If you make a mistake, you can call customer service. If you see a weird charge, you can dispute it. But then you look at Bitcoin. Transactions are final. They're irreversible. Why? Because you are the bank. This is the deal. No takebacks, no chargebacks, and no middlemen to call for help. Now I get it, that can sound terrifying, but the absence of those safety nets isn't a flaw in the system, it's the whole point. And as we're about to see, it's also what makes it so incredibly powerful. So, okay, how in the world are you supposed to operate in a system with such high stakes? Well, it all comes down to a really important shift in your mindset. It's about learning to see that $6,000 coffee not as a catastrophic loss, but as a very powerful lesson. The key here is to stop thinking about that expensive coffee as money that just vanished into the digital ether. You have to reframe it. It wasn't just a loss, it was actually an investment. And there it is, it's a tuition fee. Think about it. You just paid for an unforgettable hands-on education in the importance of paying attention, of double-checking your work, and in what it really means to have full control in a decentralized world. You know, this tuition fee, it's kind of your entry ticket into what we could call financial adulthood. It's that moment where you have to take complete and total ownership of your actions because there's no one else to call, no one else to blame, and no one to ask for a refund. You are in charge. And this quote just nails it. In the old system, mistakes can often be erased. But here, every single action you take has a permanent consequence. And because of that, every action becomes a valuable and totally unerasable lesson. So this all leads to a really crucial question. What if this finality, this lack of a safety net, what if it isn't a bug at all? What if it's actually Bitcoin's greatest feature? This is where it all clicks into place. That user error, that ridiculously expensive coffee, it isn't a failure. It's an initiation. It's the moment you truly learn that you are in absolute control of your assets. No bank, no corporation, no government can freeze your funds, seize your funds, or reverse your transactions. And that's the trade-off, right? If you want true financial sovereignty, you have to accept true personal responsibility. And that's really the journey. Every tiny fraction of a Bitcoin, every Satoshi has a story. And every mistake you make along the way becomes a building block, making you more careful, more capable, and ultimately, a sovereign individual in full control of your own wealth. Okay, so now that we've got the philosophy down, let's get practical. How can you learn this important lesson without having to pay that particularly steep tuition fee yourself? Well, it really boils down to two super simple but absolutely critical habits. First, always, and I mean always, double check the address you're sending to. At the very least, confirm that the first four and the last four characters match up perfectly. And second, if you're serious about security, use a hardware wallet. That little physical device gives you a separate screen to confirm the address away from your computer screen, which could be compromised. It's a vital extra layer of protection. Honestly, it's that simple. One extra second of just pausing and paying attention, that's the difference between a smooth transaction and becoming the person who tells the story about the $6,000 coffee. And this brings us to one last thing to think about. In a world of reversible transactions, we're taught to put our trust in big institutions, in banks, and customer service lines. But when a transaction is totally irreversible, who are you trusting then? The system forces you to trust the math, to trust the code, and maybe most importantly, it forces you to trust yourself.
It's a pretty massive shift in perspective, and definitely something worth chewing on. Thanks so much for joining me today.